Hey there, Earthlings. Thanks for tuning in to the Bartow podcast. I'm your host, Tony Bartow, where we talk about health, happiness, and anything else that's important to us humans. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the podcast by visiting thebartow.com or just click the little subscribe button wherever you listen to the podcast. And be sure to check out my Instagram at thebartow for all the latest videos and content. Thanks so much and enjoy the episode.
You're just funny. It's funny, you know, the way you tell the story and everything.
Funny how?
Come here, though. Yeah, he's crazy, see? Who are you?
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Are you ready?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thank you for tuning in. I do want to go ahead and say that today's episode you're going to love. I say that with all my episodes, but I think today you're really going to get a kick out of it. If you're into health, wellness, all that stuff, you're really going to love this. Even if you're not into that stuff, I think you're going to learn a little bit too, because I sit down with the founder of Wanna Date, which is a really, really cool, kind of like a nut butter alternative, and it only uses dates and a couple ingredients. And if you don't know dates, it is Earth's sweetener. It's a fantastic alternative for any type of sweeteners. And she came out with this great product, Wanna Date. She created it in school, and it got backed up by Mark Cuban on the Shark Tank. So she was on the Shark Tank. And it was just overall a really fun conversation because we get into what made her start the company, what her goals are, a lot of other fun stuff that she's going to be doing in the future with the company. So I think you're going to love this conversation, and I will leave the links to her website and everything like that if you want to pick it up. She even has a Kickstarter campaign where she's coming out with some edible cookie dough, quote-unquote cookie dough, made of dates. Really cool idea. I'll leave those links, but you can check out Melissa Bartow at Wanna Date on Instagram. But again, really fun conversation. But everyone, please help me welcome Melissa Bartow. You sound perfect, no background noise. What about me? Am I good?
Yes, great.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a little funky because you probably can't hear it. My mics aren't that good, but it is. I'm in Florida, so It is storming like crazy right now.
My parents are down there, so yeah, they said there was some sort of tropical storm thing coming in.
Yeah, I think it's Fred or Frank. Who knows?
It's always something.
It's always something. I'm actually surprised it's not as bad as what it normally was. Last couple of years have been pretty calm considering. But I'm right in Tampa, Apollo Beach area, so.
My parents are in Fort Myers.
Oh, get out. Yeah, it's, 45 minutes from here or something.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, I love it down in Fort Myers. Fort Myers and Sarasota are like some of my favorite spots to go to.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Except, of course, times like this where you're definitely getting wind and rain, and it's crazy. And where are you out of?
I'm in New York.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Sunny day here.
I was going to say, you get like pretty much good weather all the time.
Yeah.
Are you finding that you have a lot of friends and family? I had like 6 buddies that used to live in Brooklyn that moved down to like Miami and Orlando. And are you finding?
Yeah, no, I moved back to Florida too. I kind of go back and forth right now, but I went from being here permanently for the last 6 years till like being in Florida mostly, and now I'm just kind of like flip-flopping.
Yeah. It's like,
a little bit.
But you got it kind of made because not only do you have great weather in New York, but like during the winter, now you have a place to crash in Florida. Like it's perfect.
Yes.
So you got it made. I'm jealous.
I do.
But I definitely want to hop right into this. First of all, thanks so much for taking the time. I'm sure you're busy. But
yeah.
I'll give you kind of the reason I reached out to you personally is because, well, a couple reasons. So I've heard about your product for a while, and then I was thinking about reaching out because it's super interesting. Like I'm a big nut butter guy. So anything like in that realm, I'm like very fascinated with because I think it's just a great way to get protein and to crave a sweet tooth. And then I got served an ad numerous times by Wanna Date. And I'm like, all right, that's a sign. This is a cool product. I got to reach out because it's super interesting. So if you don't mind, if you can give us kind of like elevator pitch of, a little bit about your background and kind of what you do in the company and stuff.
Yeah. Wanna Date all kind of started out of a personal need and interest. I'm just super healthy and love to work out, and I eat like a whole foods diet. I avoid added sugar and refined anything. So I was kind of working in the food scene here in New York while I was in college at a smoothie and acai bowl shop. So I could like get, discounted food and
It's the
between
dream.
classes, make some money, whatever.
The
And
dream.
I remember the day I got there, all the acai that we like sourced was pre-sweetened with like 15 grams of added sugar. The best seller there was like this Nutella bowl, and I was like making them all the time, thinking like, what the heck? Like these people are basically eating pints of ice cream as their healthy lunch between class, and didn't even know how terrible the food, like it just blew me away. The granola was sweetened, there was honey on top of the bowl, Nutella. It was just a mess. And I thought, we have all these toppings like apple butter, pumpkin butter, Nutella, peanut butter. Is there like a chocolate vegan healthy date butter instead of Nutella that we could put on these? And went around looking for it, and there wasn't. But like on Pinterest, everyone was just saying, oh yeah, you make date paste or puree, you should blend dates and water with a touch of cocoa and you have this. So I was like, all right. I got a food processor, did it, and was blown away at how good it tasted simply by dates, water, and cinnamon or cocoa or vanilla being mixed together. I had a business class at the time also. School was just starting, where we had to take an idea and make a Kickstarter campaign out of it. Basically, the essence of the class was you were going to use the final draft of the Kickstarter campaign as your final project.
No way. That's cool.
I needed an idea, and I was like, I'll use this. That kind of forced me to come up with the name and everything. And at the end of the class, I thought, this is actually pretty cool, like, and really funny and a good idea. And if someone else makes this date butter within the next few years, and I'm like, wow, that was my idea, I would regret it forever. So I went with it, and a year later was selling Wanna off a little Squarespace I made.
Wow. That's crazy. And then, I saw you were on Shark Tank as well. How long ago was that?
So that aired in January of 2020. Yeah, about a year and a half ago.
Wow, that's awesome. And congrats. I mean, I didn't see the episode. I just saw clips, but did they pick it up? Did they at least get the idea? Like, what would happen?
Yeah. I pitched on Shark Tank and wound up making a deal with Mark Cuban.
Oh, Mark. Wow, that's great. Mm-hmm. That's a hell of a person to partner
investor.
with. That's great. Shout out Mark Cuban.
Yes.
Feel free to come on the show next, Mark, if you're feeling good. No, that's incredible. Congratulations on that. And wow, what a hell of an accomplishment too. Just not only the idea is fantastic, by the way, it's genius.
Thank you.
Because dates have always fascinated me. I recently picked up about 4 years ago. I transitioned to a plant-based diet as well. So, but I got diagnosed with Crohn's disease about 5 years ago, and I tried to do so many different diets, elimination diet, and cutting out red meat and then fish and dairy, and nothing worked until, again, about 3.5, 4 years ago, where I was like, you know what, I'm going to try this vegan thing. Let me see what the talk's all about. And I didn't. I got off my medication, and, I still have issues every now and again, but it's vastly different. I mean, it's night and day. Mm-hmm. So I've noticed plant-based in particular has helped me, and dates are a huge part of it because, again, like I said, the sweet tooth. I am a nut butter guy, but like in terms of anything sweetened in my smoothies or anything like that, I try to always use dates. And I even started making my own almond milk, which is super simple to do.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard of this machine I just bought. I don't know if it's new or not, but it's called Almond Cow. And you literally, it's like it's its own strainer, but it only takes like 90 seconds. So you put in anything you want, and I put in dates and almonds, and it just drains it, and that's it. And it's way better than any milk I've ever had.
Absolutely. Dates are the best. Nature sweetener.
It's nuts. And I don't think enough people talk about it. So I'm so glad that you really rolled with this idea, because I think it's genius and there's so much potential. So kudos as well.
Thank you.
And the name is obviously perfect.
That's like the easy part for me, is like just coming up with, I mean, I'm like a business branding, marketing kind of person, like the creative part. That's all. I mean, yeah, that's my specialty. The hard part is like the business stuff and food manufacturing, but I got that all figured out through Googling. So
of course, yeah, it does a lot. Yeah. That's currently what I do. Is I'm in marketing as well, and it just takes that one good idea, and then usually everything else comes pretty easily with it. So, and then what made you kind of go more in the plant-based realm? Was it when you first left this acai company that you were working at, or have you always been primarily plant-based or living a whole foods diet?
Personally, what I eat?
Yeah.
So I grew up in Georgia eating complete junk food.
Good food,
like
though.
the pickiest kid ever. I mean, I ate pizza, chicken, french fries, grilled cheese, and like goldfish. Like that was my diet.
Right, of course. They're all
And,
great, by the way, all fantastic foods. So,
Yeah, I loved eating that way.
Yeah.
I wish I still could.
yeah, exactly.
But no, it was just that when I went off to like New York City for college, I just suddenly was immersed into this world of like juice presses on every corner and Whole Foods. There wasn't Whole Foods where I grew up. We shopped at Kroger. This is, I mean, like 2017. Whole Foods was like up and coming still in a way where it was only in major metropolitan areas.
Right.
But I was here now buying groceries at a Whole Foods and, needing a sweet green between class or something.
Right.
So I just kind of went with it. Like, let's start eating healthy, and loved it. I mean, I just started trying everything that was available to me, enjoyed it, and thought, why didn't my parents like encourage me to eat healthier and just let me eat junk my whole life? And I started feeling better and looking better and got into yoga and running, and all of a sudden I like mentally and physically just was a new person. Tried dates for the very first time, like after seeing them kind of get trendy on Instagram, like all these new vegan influencers were a thing. Instagram was up and rising as well. I thought, wow, I've never even seen a date in my life. I mean, you see apples and bananas, but dates weren't a thing in Kennesaw, Georgia 10 years plus ago. But they straight up tasted, in my mind, like glazed donut holes.
Yes. Oh, it's a great
That's
thing.
what I thought. I was, and I mean, who doesn't love glazed donuts?
Right.
So, I mean, I was eating them all the time, and that was probably a month or two, maybe, before I started working at that smoothie and acai bowl shop. So they were kind of like my latest obsession in a way, and I was eating them every day.
That's so true. Yeah, I have one batch, obviously pitted, but I have one batch in the fridge that I'll eat like if I'm like feeling squirrely at night and I want like almost an ice cream type of thing, and I'll just eat that. Or I have some in the pantry where it's it's soft and I keep those non-pitted, so it's kind of like work to do it. So it takes my time and spreads it out. But yeah, there's so many different ways to do it and to eat that, and it really is a great sweetener for sure. And the one thing I love about what you said about the smoothie places is that is so trendy, and we don't always think sometimes where they're a business. So like the granola and the fruits and all that, you can't always have apples and oranges and acai. You can't have it fresh. I mean, unless you live near the Amazon, it's very difficult to keep things fresh. So, these companies have to either A, mass produce it, or get in a place where they have to store it to extend the shelf life. And, that's where a lot of things like pesticides and artificial fruits and flavors and sweeteners come in, because, extends the shelf life. So, of course, they're going to be able to sell more of it and make more money. But we don't always think, and I think a lot of that happens when you become in a place where you're eating more whole foods and you start realizing you're feeling better. And then why isn't every company making us eat this stuff? And why aren't our parents like training us to eat this way? It's because it is more expensive in most cases if you want it fresh. And it takes a lot of work. Sometimes it takes work to maintain and, where are you getting your food and everything from. But we have to start thinking that food is like the driver for us. Like that's our fuel. And for years, that was me. I was shoveling things in my face. My whole family's Italian. So, I mean, you could imagine it's outrageous in my household. It's spaghetti and meatballs and pork and prime rib and bread like crazy and carbs like crazy. And we just don't understand that what we put in our body is so important. And, when you get to this, it's kind of funny, like New York was the place for you, because it kind of was for me too. Like most of my friends are from up north. So when all this like trend started popping up, I started hearing more and more about it, but we don't see it in Florida. Like now you do. But more often than not, you find, and I'm sure your parents could relate, especially being in Fort Myers, where it's like it's your parents, it's your grandparents. Like those folks are like, hey, come over and let's eat for 4 hours and let's eat a bunch of carbs and bread. Like that's just, it's the family aspect of it. But when you really dial it down, and New York's a cool spot where you start getting that trend of the juiceries and eating healthy, and you start to identify it a little bit. And it is kind of weird that when I became vegan, I started getting into yoga too. And I don't know if it's like that's
one leads to another. I don't know. Healthy lifestyle.
Like I don't remember, but I feel like there was like a cult that I did like some type of like symbol, and I was like I had to repeat an oath and say, hey, if I'm vegan, I care about the earth and I care about yoga and But it's not, though. It's just when you start feeling better, then you start wondering why, and you start diving into it, and it's all connected. You know, the fresh fruits and food that we eat, you know, leads to vegetables, and then, of course, taking care of the earth, and then you're like, oh, I become a yogi now. Like, it's kind of one of those weird things where it trickles down.
Absolutely.
But what about your friends and family? Are they starting to, especially now that you started this company, are they starting to see that side of things? Are they still kind of doing their own thing, not eating as healthy as you? Or
My dad has Crohn's too, actually.
oh, get out! Oh,
yeah.
wow. That's a lot more common than people think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, it's wrecked him in a lot of ways, but like he's doing so much better. I mean, I kind of led the way, I guess, for my family when I started coming home from school and, you know, kind of being pickier with what we were buying around the holidays and whatnot. Right. But you lead by example, sort of. I mean, they're from a generation where it's like my mom's buying Fiber One bars that say they're low fat and stuff or whatever. So
Sure.
I've been leading by example, certainly. But the world's changing. I mean, when I grew up and my mom and dad were buying us groceries, no one was saying limit your added sugar intake, you know?
Right.
It's just the world's become that, and now that's like more of a mainstream thing. And so, you know, I taught them, hey, when you buy almond milk at the grocery store, make sure you read the label and you get the one that says no added sugar instead of this one, because they're not all the same. We live in a world now where people are really more so looking at ingredients more than they ever have than they were in the past when they were only looking at the marketing message on the front saying, this is healthy, this is whole grain, this is heart, low cholesterol,
Right.
better for you. And now people are realizing, wait, look at the back.
Yeah.
Is that's not true.
I can't pronounce that. So what is that exactly? Yeah. Yeah, that is very interesting. That's a good point. I didn't really think about that. People are really looking at ingredients. I mean, there's people on TikTok and Instagram that's their only page is going through these grocery stores, and I can't imagine being like a CEO of a company, and for 100 years you've gotten away with whatever. They probably don't know. I don't think. I was having a conversation with a buddy that's a plant-based coach. He's a fitness coach, and he's out in California, and obviously California is like New York. It's, you know, they started this trend,
Right.
I think, is one of the first. And we were having this conversation where I don't think CEOs 50 years ago, 100 years ago, I don't think they knew what they were doing. I just think they found a way to make a lot of money, and then once they get all that money, it's hard to turn off the fountain, you know, when that's pouring. And I don't think they're educated enough to figure out alternatives, because it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of time to figure that stuff out. So I don't know if their intentions were 100% negative, but it is definitely time to change. And I think as a business owner, if you have a product like that, you got to start picking it apart and identifying, because someone's going to call you out on your shit at some point. Put aside the fact that you're probably killing people, because that's a big deal. But even in that aside, you're still going to make a lot of money, because I think now more than ever, people would prefer healthy alternatives. You know, if you line up 100 people, I mean, I think it's fair to say 90 of them would prefer a healthier alternative if it tastes as good. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, that was what I came to the conclusion of, kind of was, you know, we all want to eat healthy. We all want to be healthy.
Right.
But very few want to do that for the sake of enjoying food, it tasting good, and loving the way you eat. Yeah. Most people would rather go get the pint of ice cream at night because they want something sweet. So you have to give people what they want still, something sweet, but you could change the delivery of that through dates or acai bowls or dates bread. Yeah.
Yeah. And the big thing is just changing your palate too. That's one thing I noticed, where I wasn't, prior to being vegan, I wasn't big into, you know, plants and anything like that. I had a lot of meat, a lot of carbs. But then once I started, after a few weeks, I would say probably 4 or 5 weeks for anybody, to go from eating that ice cream that you love. Like my wife's a great example, because she still loves yogurt, like Greek yogurt and regular yogurt. She'll occasionally have like coconut milk yogurt and things like that, but Greek yogurts, it was pretty good. I used to eat all the time. Yeah. And for the first time, because I made some chia seed pudding, like my own pudding at home, and I usually mix that with coconut milk yogurt. And for the first time, I gave it to her so she can mix it with her Greek yogurt. And then I tried a bite of it, and I haven't had Greek yogurt in 4 years. And I tried, and I was like, it was so sour and disgusting. I was like, how do people do? But I used to eat that all the time. But, you know, my palate has changed so much, and I've gotten used to that coconut milk, that other stuff becomes kind of gross. So people have to get away from that ice cream and just train your palate that dates are a great sweetener, and you just got to try it out.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. But I'm the same way. My family is slowly transitioning. I love how you said holidays, because Thanksgiving and Christmas was like a big thing for us, and in the Italian culture, ironically, because it's an American holiday. But we used to just have these big family gatherings, and people would bring prime rib and pasta and all this type of stuff. But the last few Thanksgivings, it's been like me with a tofu turkey, and I'm starting to like slowly kind of course, my dad, instead of bringing 10 pounds of pasta, he brings 5. So he's trying, but he's been the most stubborn one. But if I have like a Beyond Meat meatball and I'll make it, I'll toss it in with spaghetti and make him try it. And he's 55, 60 years old in the game of eating pasta. So he knows that ain't a real meatball. And I'm like, but it's pretty good. He's like, yeah, but it's not a real meatball. I was like, all right,
That's my dad.
Yeah. So I'm trying, but it is tough. All those old school guys and gals, it's tough to get them off the bandwagon, but they're trying. They're trying.
Yeah.
So.
No, we live in a world now where there's so many healthy alternatives, pretty much for anything. And I always say to people, like, I could find a healthier way to bake anything. So, like, I'll be showing up at Thanksgiving and I'm, like, going to be making pumpkin bread with no added sugar using dates bread and almond flour and pure canned pumpkin without added sugar. And then, my dad loves pasta, so, like, I got him hooked on chickpea pasta now.
Yeah.
Gluten-free, like, better for his Crohn's and whatnot. So there's all these things. You just have to be willing and wanting to be better, Everyone wants to be healthy, but they say that as they're literally, like, shoving chips down their throats. Like, hey, put the Lay's down and go get some, like, Siete grain-free cassava flour ones. Like, there is something for everything if you're willing to put in the work and not be lazy.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, again, that's the thing, is those companies that are those alternatives, they haven't been around for 100 years, right? So we're so embedded in the marketing strategy of these big multi-million-dollar companies that are just shoving this stuff down our face, and we're so used to it. Like, I saw an ad the other day for a new Doritos flavor, and I was like, oh my God, I haven't had Doritos in like 8 years. But for me, it wasn't the taste of Doritos, it was the 20 years of Doritos that I ate. It was like, It's that nostalgic thing. But once you get past that and once you try other stuff, you're like, there's stuff way better than Doritos. Like, there's stuff way better than Jif peanut butter. Like, Jif peanut butter to me and a little bit of marshmallow spread. Oh my God, when I was a kid, forget it. The fluff was enough. Like, that was
right. Oh my gosh, marshmallow fluff. I remember it.
Oh my God, the worst thing you could possibly eat, and that's worse than a s'more. Like, that's legit. I don't know how they.
Right. It's like, what even is it?
Like, how do they figure out a way to where let's process marshmallows and make marshmallows even worse for you, because they're horrible. They're just sugar. How do we make that worse, though? How can we package it? But man, that was good, though, those sandwiches.
Yeah.
But then, now I have like nut butter that are straight, made of macadamia nuts and almond nuts and cocoa oil. And, that's, to me, I think it's way better than Jif, just because it's so interesting and it's so much better and it's more flavorful and you don't feel as gross afterwards. And there's just so many great alternatives out there. So I have not tried your one a date. I'm going to put in an order after this. I wanted to make sure you showed up for the podcast first. Because if you like canceled, I'd be like, out of spite, I'm not going to order it. No, but it looks super, super great. And I know I saw something where, are you coming out with a different product or is it already out? Because I know you have the spread.
So we are very close to launching date-based edible cookie dough. We're doing a Kickstarter campaign right now, and there's about 10 days left in it for pre-ordering, essentially. But yeah, by the end of next month, you can get either snickerdoodle, chocolate brownie, or birthday cake date dough. And it's going to be, it's so good. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. It's just add water date dough. It comes in a pouch, and the ingredients are almond flour, coconut flour, dates, and then the different flavors. So either vanilla, cinnamon, or cocoa powder. You just take a scoop of it out, add 2 tablespoons of water, and start mixing it, and you have like edible, sweet, delicious chocolate brownie date dough or vanilla flavored birthday cake date dough or snickerdoodle date dough. And it tastes like you're eating raw cookie dough batter, but it's just the plant-based flours sweetened with dates and flavor. and water. But if you're interested, you could then take that and add something like an egg or almond milk instead of water, flatten it, and you could put it in the oven, and you have a ready-to-eat cookie in a minute.
Oh, and then you could bake the dough, and then you got a cookie. Boom.
Yep.
Really? So it's already the pre-mixed powder. You just add the water. That's so simple.
Yeah. I had the idea kind of I would make this all the time with date spread.
Sure.
Over the last couple of years, I would take a scoop of almond flour, coconut flour out of my pantry, and then put a little scoop of date spread in it to sweeten it. And if it needed some water to mix, I'd add that. And I was eating this all the time, and I was posting it on the Instagram all the time. Sometimes I'd add protein powder and say it's protein powder brownie batter or whatever. This was on my Instagram all the time. You can just scroll back, see it. And then one day it kind of clicked to me, this would be cool if I could sell date dough like this. Yeah. And then thought, obviously you can't sell that in a shelf stable way, or it'd be really hard to be now selling jars of date dough that's actually edible cookie dough. But since I was adding water, I was like, maybe if I just get the dates not in date spread form, let's just do ground dates as the sweetener, and it does the same thing. So instead of putting chocolate date spread in the almond flour, coconut flour mix, I put cocoa powder, water, ground dates, and add that, and it is the exact same result.
That's genius. That's perfect. And are you familiar with any the history of dates and where it originated or anything like that?
I've never formally educated myself, but given that I'm in the business of dates, I know there's a lot in the Middle East. There's a ton of kinds. I mean, we get ours from the Desert Valley in California, but dates are it. Yeah, dates are it. Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is because it's one of the few
foods that you can grow it anywhere. It's unlike grapes, like wine grapes, where you would have to only grow it in California. But it's all around the world, and it's super easy, super sustainable, and you can make so many things with it for just that little piece, and it's so sweet considering. So to me, it's a genius part, because when you look at a lot of other stuff, like a peanut butter for a good example, there's so much peanuts that you have to make legit, creamy peanut butter, and it's so much work. And to make real good stuff, it takes a lot of work. But with dates, you don't need a lot of work, I would imagine. Right?
No.
Because they're just so naturally sweet as it is. It's so interesting.
Yeah, and even when you say it takes a lot of peanuts to make peanut butter too, people are always shocked when they see that the date spreads are just 25 calories per tablespoon serving, whereas peanut butter, almond butter, they're all 80 to 100 per serving. And I explained to them, I'm like, imagine one little peanut, it's so small, a peanut and then a date, which is the size of 20 peanuts. So if you take one date, maybe one date's about 20 to 30 calories, that makes a tablespoon. You need 30 to 50, well, maybe not 50, but you need 30 little peanuts to make a tablespoon of peanut butter. So when you add up the calories, it ends up the peanuts surpass those of dates. And it's just a serving size thing you don't think about. And then they blend oil usually into the peanut butters to avoid the separation. Date spread is just blended with water. There's no separation. And so an 80 to 90 calorie tablespoon of peanut butter versus a 25 calorie tablespoon of date spread.
Game changer.
Yeah.
And by the way, tons of fat in peanut butter.
Yeah.
There's good fats and bad fats. And I'm here to tell you, folks, I hate to tell you this, but peanut butter is not a good fat.
I don't eat it.
Yeah, it might have tasted good when you were a kid, but we need to get out of that for sure.
And at the end of the day, I don't ever discourage people from eating nut butters, but at the end of the day, calories are calories. And you want to eat only good calories, really, or the most good calories, but also you can't be eating half a jar of peanut butter every night as your little treat. But you could do that with date spread.
Yeah. And listen, have you ever had cheesecake? It's incredible. You can't have that every single day. You shouldn't really have that at all because it's horrible for you. Sure, it tastes good, but come on, people gotta. I think now we're smart enough to understand it. Especially the one thing for me that kind of opened up my eyes as I started transitioning to vegan and eliminating my diet is, we've been fed all this stuff over the years, and when they came out and said the food pyramid needed to be adjusted. The food pyramid that I grew up on, I'm 36. So the food pyramid I grew up on, it was not what it is today. They used to tell us you had to have cereal in the morning. You had to have, your 4 glasses of milk a day. And, you're going to get strong bones. And now studies are coming out saying milk has nothing to do with helping osteoporosis, but that was their huge marketing campaign. So, you know, people have to educate themselves a little bit differently and not always listen to these big multi-billion-dollar companies that have been around for 100 years.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, do you want to look into the government-funded studies behind everything? Everyone's got an ulterior capitalistic-minded motive. We now actually kind of start to understand thanks to like social media and people revealing stuff.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Like, where obviously there's a lot of negatives with social media, but there's a huge amount of positives, and this is one of them, I think, to where, you know, you can learn a lot more now, and you don't just have to Google everything, or you don't have to listening to a TV commercial to learn your information. You know, as long as you want to take the effort to actually invest time into learning about this stuff, there's so many resources out there, and people exposing companies on social media are probably one of my favorite things.
Mine too.
You
Yeah,
know, it's
everyone's
like-
being held accountable. So you either do the right thing and stand by it, or you do the wrong thing and you'll get called out.
That's right. And it's so funny, too, because all these companies that haven't fixed their business yet, it's just a matter of time. So I think whether it's 10 years or 50 years down the road, I'm confident there will be a point in our life, maybe in our lifetime, that every single company is not vegan, not self-sustaining, because I know that's a hard ask, but I'm very confident for the future that people are going to get a little bit smarter. Companies are going to kind of understand that they need to kind of go into a different route, and it's going to be tough, and people might lose jobs and money, but I think I'm optimistic. I feel good about it.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just a matter of like time and generations and whatnot. I mean, who knows how long it'll take, but a company like, you know, Burger King, whoever that puts out the plant-based burger, over time, eventually, those burgers will become the bestseller, and it will fizzle out the ones that aren't selling. So in a way, you know, we vote with our dollars. So as more people learn and more people actually want to be healthier, it'll happen.
It'll happen. Yeah, it's a good way to do it, because we're the consumer. I don't think people now more than ever we're understanding that we get to decide what market share is. We get to decide what businesses flourish and what don't. You know, and I got a couple buddies that own restaurants in Orlando, and now more than ever, they're like, listen, man, a 1-star rating or a video on Instagram of an influencer that has like 100,000 followers, that could shut us down. Like, so they're like on their game. You have to be, you know, and it's kind of cool because it is holding people accountable. And I think overall we're going to be better humans for it. I am a little worried though, as a vegan, because I'm better than everybody. Just kidding. I just hate saying that because it sounds so narcissistic. As a vegan, no, but like as I've been a vegan these last few years, I have realized something that's kind of scary though, and tell me if you're into it. But I've noticed that a lot of companies, like I know Tyson Chicken is coming out with plant-based meats, and you know, it's a good thing because they have a lot of money behind it, and maybe they'll stop a lot of the factory farming that they're behind in a lot of these big companies. But I feel like we're going to this thing so quickly, and we're getting to the point to where, like the very first McDonald's restaurant, it was real beef. It was fresh. It was nice and thick. It was like $2 back then, which was really expensive back then. But now, eventually, you know, I don't know how many millions of burgers they sold later, because I don't see those signs anymore. Remember they used to have those signs? 100 billion sold or whatever? I don't know how many they're at, but now it's 99 cents for a flat burger that is, you know, mass produced. We don't even know what's in it. But they started off as a very honest company, and it worries me that these fake meat companies and all that were pushing this down everyone's throats so quickly. And I feel like a lot of people are going to hop on the bandwagon for the wrong reasons, and it's going to get kind of watered down a little bit. Do you feel that way, or are you more?
Well, my take on that is when McDonald's opened, beef was beef. Then came commercialized everything
Factory
and
farming and
chemicals and new ways of doing things that extends shelf lives and factory farming and technology. And beef was no longer like 10% meat, you know, it's actual beef. And so we still have, if not, we have more now capabilities to like manufacture stuff. I don't even say I'm vegan. I eat a whole food plant-based diet. So I'm not buying the plant-based burger that has not actual real ingredients in it.
Right.
I read the nutrition label and ingredient label on every single thing I put into my mouth. If there's an ingredient I don't already know what it is, I look it up. And if it's some weird manufactured thing that's not actually food, I don't eat it because it wasn't put in the world for human consumption necessarily.
Yeah.
And it's only generally regarded as safe because no one's
Looking it up.
directly shown how it directly hurts somebody.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, you look around the country with everyone not being so healthy these days, and you can't really pinpoint the direct cause necessarily with so many variables at play, but it ultimately is going to come down to those little words on those ingredient labels of the stuff you're eating throughout the day.
That's right. Yeah, no, that's a great point to put it. Yeah, plant-based is, or in whole foods rather, is the way to go. And I always tell people that I talk to on, because I don't know if you looked up some of the other episodes, but most of my podcast is all about health, wellness, and just spreading positivity. So I talk to friends, strangers, and just trying to educate myself and educate other people on just how to live a more fruitful, exciting, fun, but also healthy lifestyle. And a lot of things that I do talk about is that of staying on the outer aisles and shopping from what you know it is, grabbing something that is a whole food or a fruit, because if you grab a thing of lettuce, that's lettuce. The funniest thing to me is when I see people or I have friends that buy canned vegetables. That's hilarious to me. It's like, what are you doing? You don't need to grab corn. There's corn right here. It's fresh corn, and it's cheaper because you get more out of it. But yeah, you got to go through a little bit of work. But that corn
if you're going to buy something in a package, that's when you have to read the ingredient label.
That's
like
right.
with my parent, not everyone's going to make their own almond milk like someone like you or me probably.
Right.
But there's levels to it and educational, things you have to overcome. So when it comes to my parents, when it's buy your almond milk, to them it's buy your almond milk, but read it and look for the one without, the added stuff in it. Whereas you and me are like ready to go make our own with raw ingredients.
Give me those almonds and dates. That's all I need.
Yeah.
Well, and plus I enjoy this plant-based lifestyle because I feel like, and again, I hope this doesn't happen, but I feel like if I was like stuck on an island or something, like I'll be good, because I know how to make as long as there's dates on the island, there's got to be dates, but I know how to make my almond milk. Like I know how to make a nice meal out of like some weird grass and stuff. Like I'm good. But and if I have to, I can hunt, worst case scenario. But I feel like that's what we have to be careful of is these everybody that asks me if they should go plant-based, I go, it's okay for I call Beyond Meat an impossible. I think it's a good alternative, what I call a transitional food. So like if you want to go from having a Big Mac, but instead you go to Burger King and try the Impossible Burger, that's better than a Big Mac, maybe. We don't really know yet because it hasn't been out long enough, but I think if you could try that to get it out of your palate, get it out of your system, and then eventually just make your own burgers. I mean, it's a lot of work, but I make my own plant-based burgers and they're black bean patties, and I enjoy them, but is it as good as like a nice big juicy burger? Probably not, but it's healthier for you, and the healthier it is, the longer you could be on this earth, and I think that's kind of more important than enjoying a 30-second burger because, we shovel food down our face. We don't even enjoy it that much. So what are you worried about? Just put something good in your body that is going to make you live longer.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. Again, it's the transitional foods, the transitional things. Like I said, with my dad, I tell him, use chickpea pasta instead of, whatever's in actual pasta, the refined flours. I'm like, use chickpea pasta. And then someone like me, I make raw spaghetti squash pasta. Looks like, like that's me. That's totally raw, takes time. I enjoy the process though. But once upon a time, I started with buying, boxed gluten-free chickpea stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Which, by the way, is fantastic. I love me some chickpea pasta. It's a really cool alternative. As my father would say, it's an insult, but Dad, take it easy, okay? We'll get you there, Pops. Relax. But yeah, no, I think that's great, and I think what you're doing is what a lot of companies need to do is look at something that they love and create a really cool alternative for it, because we got to get to that point. We thought cars were a great idea, and then now we're realizing that electric cars might be the way to go. Mm-hmm. So, someone like an Elon Musk has really taken this thing to new heights and new levels. And I think a lot of companies need to start doing that. But you got a good point. It's up to us as the consumer to demand that.
Absolutely.
Demand it. So, well, before I let you go, because we're going at We're going on almost 45 minutes. I could probably talk to you for like 2 more hours,
Yeah,
but I don't want to take too
we
much of
can
your
go all
time.
day, honestly.
Yeah, so maybe I'll have you back on if you keep making some time. It was good to get to know you. But if you can, give a shout out to the website, the Kickstarter, all that jazz. So I'll make sure I leave that in the description below so people could. They got what, 10 days left on that?
Yeah, I think there's 9 or 10 right now at this point. Yeah, it's linked on all of our website, our social medias, which is all eatwannadate.com at eatwannadate, EAT, and then the name Wanna Date.
Very cool. And it's Bartow, right? Bartow? Melissa Bartow?
Bartow, Bartow.
Very cool. All right, so guys and gals, make sure you follow Melissa and the company Wanna Date. Really great cause, awesome alternative to really anything. I can't wait for that cookie dough. That is such a great idea because if anybody still eats cookie dough out there, by the way, that's very bad for you. So you probably should stop doing that immediately. But I'm looking forward to this. So Melissa Bartow, ladies and gentlemen. Melissa, thank you for the time. It was really cool to have you on. And let's do this again.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Melissa. Have a great week.
Thanks.
All right, bye.